Hey everyone, I'm Mia. Welcome to Her Court Daily. Today's WNBA story is honestly wild. Jessica's got the full breakdown.
Imagine watching your favorite player score 25 points, hit threes from everywhere, drive into defenders without flinching, and somehow never once walk to the free throw line. Not once. Zero trips. In a professional basketball game. Now imagine that same player picking up two technical fouls. One of them for kicking a loose ball she was literally trying to hand back to the referee. And imagine the crowd, the internet, and eventually a laser eye surgery company all collectively losing their minds over what they just witnessed. That is not a hypothetical. That happened. Saturday night, Mohegan Sun Arena, a building that has seen some of the most intense women's basketball in the history of this league, and what unfolded there may have been the single most talked about game of the 2026 WNBA season so far, and it had almost nothing to do with who won. But let's start somewhere unexpected, because the actual result of this game matters more than people are giving it credit for. The Indiana Fever walked into Connecticut, a road environment, against a Sun team that is never easy to beat on their own floor, and they left with an 85-75 when that pushed their record to 8-5. 8-5. For a franchise that spent years as a punchline, for a team that people spent all of last offseason questioning and debating and doubting, that is not a small number. That is a statement. And yet within minutes of the final buzzer, almost nobody was talking about the win. They were talking about the whistles. Or more precisely, the complete and total absence of them. Here is what makes this specific situation different from the usual officiating complaints you hear every week in every sport. This was not a case of one bad call in a close game, the kind of thing you shrug at and scroll past. This was a pattern that played out over 40 minutes in real time, visible to everyone watching, impossible to explain away, and it centered on arguably the most watched player in women's sports right now. Caitlin Clark went to the free throw line 0 times. And the only whistle she was involved in that night came when she was being penalized, not protected. 2 technicals. 0 free throws. In a game where she scored 25 points, created for her teammates, and physically attacked the rim repeatedly. Process that math for a second, because it does not add up under any conventional understanding of how basketball is supposed to be officiated. Now here is where the story gets layered, because not everything about those 2 technical fouls is created equal, and that distinction matters enormously. The first one Clark herself handed over. In the third quarter, she drove hard, absorbed contact from 2 Connecticut defenders, got nothing from the referee, and punched the air out of raw frustration. That fist pump, that single burst of emotion, earned her a technical foul. And when reporters asked her about it afterward, she did not deflect. She said she deserved it, but that it was worth it. That kind of accountability is rare, that kind of directness even rarer, and in that moment she actually won a little respect even from people who were looking for reasons to criticize her. But the second technical is where the night crossed the line from frustrating into genuinely surreal. Late in the fourth quarter, with the Fever clinging to a lead in a tightening game, Clark poked a ball loose on a Connecticut inbounds play. The ball rolled away. She flicked it casually with her foot, the way you would kick a pebble out of your path on the sidewalk, and then she immediately chased it down and brought it to the referee so play could continue. No delay, no theatrics, no intent to disrupt anything. And the referee, Tyler Merck, hit the Fever with a delay of game technical foul. Connecticut got a free throw. The lead shrunk to 2. And Caitlin Clark, who had spent the entire night getting fouled without a whistle, finally got a whistle because she kicked a ball back toward the official. She did not stay silent about that one. In the post-game, she named the referee directly. She said the call made no sense. She said it felt like Tyler Merck wanted to insert himself into the game, and that it was ridiculous. When a superstar names an official by name in a press conference in professional sports, you know something has genuinely broken. That does not happen casually. That happens when someone has reached the end of a very long rope. And now here's the part that shifts this from being about one game and turns it into something with real consequences stretching across the entire season. That second technical was Clark's 4th of the 2026 WNBA season. 4th. 13 games in. She is tied with Angel Reese of the Atlanta Dream for the most technical fouls in the league. And this year, for the first time, the collective bargaining agreement has teeth built into it. 8 technical fouls in a single season triggers an automatic one-game suspension. After that, every additional technical brings another automatic suspension. Clark is halfway there. Halfway, with 31 regular season games still remaining. Do the arithmetic on her current pace, and she is staring directly at multiple forced absences during a stretch when the Fever are genuinely competing, genuinely climbing, genuinely believing they belong in a playoff conversation. This is no longer just about one bad night. This is about whether the Fever's most important player will be available down the stretch of a season where every game is starting to count. And there is a financial dimension too, which adds a different kind of sting. The first 3 technicals cost $500 each. From the 4th onward, the fine jumps to $1,000 per violation. That is money, yes, but more than the money, it is the signal that the league is not treating these calls as minor inconveniences. They carry escalating weight. And when some of those calls are as questionable as what happened in that 4th quarter in Connecticut, the weight starts to feel deeply unfair. Meanwhile, while all of this was boiling over, something was happening on the court that almost got completely swallowed by the noise. Sophie Cunningham. Remember that name because she is the reason this game ended the way it did. With the Fever needing someone to step up in the closing minutes, with Clark's technical situation becoming a distraction, and Connecticut pressing hard to cut the deficit, Cunningham took over. She scored the final 11 points for Indiana. All of them. 3 consecutive three-pointers and a layup to the rim, back to back to back to back, turning what could have become a tense collapse into something that looked almost routine by the end. And the reason that is even more remarkable is this: Sophie Cunningham had not played in the previous game at all. She missed it with a right elbow injury. She was listed as questionable going into Saturday. She got cleared. And then she walked into one of the toughest road environments in the league and delivered the dagger sequence that locked up the win. That is not luck. That is the kind of resolve that defines teams who win in the postseason, the ones who find contributions from unexpected places exactly when they need them most. You could see it on the bench, Clark and the entire Fever roster erupting watching Cunningham close it out, and in that moment the team looked like exactly what its record now suggests it might actually be: a contender that has figured something out. But the internet is not always interested in what is real, and the internet was not done with this story. The reaction online to Saturday's officiating was something that transcended sports commentary and entered the realm of cultural spectacle. A national sports commentator posted publicly that Caitlin Clark was a really hard watch to take that sent a significant portion of the WNBA's fan base into an immediate and sustained fury. A prominent columnist called her whiny, which predictably added fuel to an already raging fire. But the moment that somehow defined the entire discourse, the one that felt almost too perfectly absurd to be real, came from a healthcare company. A laser eye surgery brand publicly offered free LASIK procedures to WNBA referees, online, in plain view, and it went viral within hours. A corporation roasting the officials on a public stage after a basketball game. When brands start clowning your referees for entertainment purposes, you have officially entered territory that the league's communications department does not have a playbook for. But underneath all of that noise, underneath the hot takes and the tweets and the corporate eye surgery jokes, there was a quieter and more significant story beginning to take shape around this team. One that, if you had been paying attention over the previous 2 weeks, you already knew about. The whispers about friction inside the Fever organization had been circulating for a while before Saturday, mostly sourced from sideline footage that caught what appeared to be a heated exchange between Caitlin Clark and head coach Stephanie White during a blowout loss a few games back. Cameras caught it. Social media amplified it. Reporters started asking questions and then asking more questions, and eventually the speculation grew loud enough that both Clark and White had to address it directly. Clark's response was brief and firm. She essentially called it speculation and moved on. White pushed back harder, questioning the nature of the reporting itself, suggesting that what was being framed as journalism was not actually journalism at all. Officially, there is no rift. Officially, this team is united. And yet the conversation keeps circling back, because that is the reality distortion field this franchise operates inside, a phenomenon where no matter what the Fever actually do, there is always an angle being constructed somewhere to suggest that something is wrong beneath the surface. Here is the honest truth about that. coaches and players argue. In every professional sport, at every level, the best competitors in the world sometimes clash with the people coaching them because both parties care intensely about winning. A sideline exchange caught by a camera during a frustrating loss is not evidence of a locker room falling apart. It is evidence of people who give a damn. And the actual words coming out of this organization tell a different story entirely. White has spoken publicly about Clark in glowing terms, calling her elite, marveling at what she is accomplishing this early in her professional career. That is not how a coach talks about a player she has lost faith in. That is how a coach talks about someone she is building around. But here is the thing that should have been the headline of this entire stretch, and somehow got almost completely buried under the technical foul drama and the officiating controversy. Just days before the Connecticut game, Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston did something that had never happened once in the 30-year history of the WNBA. Not once. In the same game, on the same team, both of them posted 30-point double-doubles simultaneously. Clark went for 32 points and 10 assists. Boston dropped 34 points and 12 rebounds. 2 franchise-level performances, 2 record books rewritten one night. If you are trying to build a narrative that the Indiana Fever is a broken team held together by one player, you have to explain how 2 of those players just made history together. You have to explain how a team supposedly on the edge of fracture found a way to produce one of the most statistically rare moments in the sport's entire existence. The pieces are not just there, they're functioning at a level that the rest of the league should be paying close attention to. And that is ultimately what makes Saturday's officiating story so frustrating beyond the surface outrage. It is not about one bad call or one bad game. It is about the tension between what this team is becoming and the forces that keep threatening to interrupt it. Clark climbing into the top 6 in franchise history for career three-pointers made, that is a milestone that belongs in the highlight reel. Instead, it is an asterisk in a story about technical fouls. The Fever sitting at 4-1 in Commissioner's Cup play within striking distance of the top of their conference, that is the kind of run you build identity off of. Instead, it is background noise to a debate about whether a referee wanted too much attention. This is the space the Indiana Fever currently occupy. Undeniably good. Undeniably ascending. And permanently one questionable whistle away from a conversation that has nothing to do with basketball. The real question, the one that should be keeping the coaching staff and the front office awake at night, is not whether this team is talented enough to make a deep run. They clearly are. The question is whether Caitlin Clark, for technicals into a new season, with a suspension threshold set at 8 and 31 games left to play, can navigate a full season of officiating that often looks nothing like what she deserves without either boiling over once too many times or watching from the bench on a night Indiana cannot afford to lose her. Because here is the final uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Some of those technicals are going to keep coming. Not because Clark is undisciplined, she is one of the most competitive players in the sport, and that fire is precisely what makes her great. But because the margin between what the current officiating is willing to let pass and what it is willing to punish when it comes to her specific reactions seems to be set at a level that would challenge the composure of anyone. And if a delay of game technical can come from returning a ball to a referee, then the standard is not just inconsistent, it is arbitrary in a way that makes planning around it almost impossible. Sophie Cunningham hit 4 huge shots down the stretch on a bad elbow, and the Fever won. That is the good news. 8-5, healthy, historic, and hungry, that is the real story of where this team stands right now. But the night you remember from Saturday in Connecticut, the moment that will live in the highlight packages and the debate segments and the comment sections for weeks, is not the game-sealing three-pointer or the franchise record or even the historic double-double from the week before. It is 0. 0 free throws. For a player who attacked the rim 20 times and walked off the floor having earned exactly none of them. That number is going to follow this season for a long time. Subscribe this channel now to check every new coming news. Thanks for watching this video. I am eatingly waiting for your thoughts.